we're going to debunk the myths that the cruise industry tries to convince you about why you should take port excursions sponsored by the cruise line. Stay tuned as we give you tips and tricks on how to save money and enjoy a cruise port on your terms, not on those of the boat. So, who are we?
We are Chris and Steve, EatWalkLearn. We have been traveling the globe for the last 3 years with nothing more than our carry-on bags. And right now we are on a cruise talking about cruises and talking about the port days as we have our different days that we are on land. And why is this so important right now?
Yeah, so just recently in the news, a cruise did actually leave some passengers behind in Africa. So we actually are going to debunk this myth that the cruise lines leave without passengers. Now, it is true that cruise lines will leave passengers behind and that passengers need to get to the boat on time. And if you take a cruise-sponsored excursion, they do guarantee that the boat will wait for you if your excursion is late. And if you do something by yourself and you miss the boat, you're out of luck. Those are two true points. But the debunking is, we actually talked to 3 different safety and security officers on the boat to ask them how often this occurrence actually happens. And what did we find out?
Yeah, they said that it does happen, and over the 20 years of their combined experience, it's happened maybe 2 or 3 times. So it is a truth that it can happen, and it's possible it happens.
But it's super
But
rare.
it is very rare
Yeah.
that it happens, and they do everything they can to make sure that the passengers get back on board.
And they're very transparent. They make sure they tell you what time to be back on board and how long it's going to take you to get back to the ship if you're in town, and so on. So you do have to worry about it, but it's a very infrequent occurrence.
Right.
So myth number 2 that the cruise ship industry tries to relay so that you buy their expensive excursions is that the ports are unsafe and that bad things will happen to you if you leave your little bubble. What did we find out?
Yeah, well, I mean, I have to say that I am the person that before we started traveling full time was a little bit afraid of going to different countries where I didn't speak the language, where I didn't know the customs, and was I going to get fit in, was I going to get in trouble? But what I have found out is that, especially on cruise ships and in the ports that they visit, that they are extremely safe, and that you don't have to be afraid to get off the boat and go off on your own and do things that make you happy.
Right, and as with any other travel around the world, you obviously want to keep some basic safety tips in mind. You know, pay attention to your money, don't get pickpocketed. You know, be aware of your surroundings and so on. But we've got some particular tips for when you're on a cruise and you're in a port. So the first one is, have a good plan. Do your research, understand what you're going to do, and plan your day around being back at the ship in a timely manner.
Yeah.
So meaning you got to monitor your time, right?
Yeah, monitor your time, and in timely manner means if they say you're back on the ship at 5 o'clock, you make sure you're back on the ship at 4 o'clock.
Right.
And you're budgeting your time, and you're making sure that there is not going to be a chance that you're going to be left behind. That you're going to miss
Right,
that-
and don't go
that-
too far from the ship. You know, if as you're monitoring your time and you realize you're halfway through the day, are you halfway back to the ship too? Monitor your time and your distance from the ship.
Yeah, and part of that is trying to schedule too much. Again, do your research in advance. How long is it going to take you to get to the places that you want to go to? And, leave room for,
Right,
for
for
error.
error.
And don't try to pack everything in.
Right. Also, make sure you have a phone that works. I know we talk to people, cruisers particularly, all the time who really aren't relying on their phone when they get into port. This is a really important safety tip to always know that your phone works. Watch our video here about how to get your phone to work. And even if you have a local domestic USA plan that charges you $10 a day to use your phone internationally, turn it on while you're in port, because that's just a safety issue that you're going to want to maintain as you travel through these ports.
Yeah, and before we continue, thank you for subscribing. We really appreciate having you as a viewer, and we hope this content is important to you.
Right, and then so the third tip for being safe while you're in port, and this is something men perhaps might need to embrace a little more than women. Men really can't ask for directions. Okay, myth number 3 we're going to debunk, and that the cruise ships love to make you think this, is you have to spend a lot of money in the port in order to be safe and have a good time. Man, is this not true? Wow, what do we learn?
Yeah, well, particularly what what I like to do is be able to support the local economy, and we have found amazing deals and amazing budget-friendly opportunities to visit ports and do the things that we want to do on our terms and save a lot of money in doing it.
Yeah, it's so nice to just hand your money locally to the local vendor rather than have it, go up through the cruise line and then come down in little pennies to the local person. So I think we should maybe talk about some of the excursions that we've done in comparison to what the cruise ship has done and how much fun we've had. So
Absolutely.
The first one was in Wellington, right?
Yeah, Wellington in New Zealand, and there was a funicular, and I'm all about funiculars. I love alternative forms of transportation. This one had a line that was a mile long.
But the cruise excursion was you paid, they picked you up at the boat, they put you on a bus. They took you on a little tour through town, around the Botanic Gardens, and dropped you off at the funicular. You then took the funicular up to the top of the mountain, and I think they picked you up at the top of the mountain, or maybe you walked down.
I think you took the funicular back down.
Yeah, but it was like $129 per person for basically a bus ride and a funicular ride. That's basically what, and they might have had a meal in there. I don't remember.
Yeah. Well, there's, something that I, like more than funiculars, and that's not standing in line for a funicular. So we decided to casually walk up through the Botanic Gardens, beautiful gardens. When we got to the top, we explored the gardens a little bit some more, and there was no line to take the funicular back down to the bottom. So we just hopped right back on. We hopped on the funicular and rode it down to the bottom and didn't have to stand in line.
Yeah, and the line at the bottom was like 2 hours long. Even if you were on a tour, it was 2 hours long to get on the funicular.
There's no way to avoid it.
So we beat it by walking up to the top and going down, with no time at all. So the other time, remember when we were in American Samoa? Oh my God, this was such a great day. So there were a lot of tours in American Samoa, and they started at $99 and worked their way up. And basically those tours, you got on this, what do they call them, chicken buses or something? Like kind of like a school bus with wooden benches, no air conditioning.
No windows.
They had windows. But
Right.
Yeah.
They weren't closed.
Yeah. And the windows were open. You had wind in. It was hot, and there's no air conditioning. Anyway, and then you had the bus driver that people complained about they couldn't hear. So we thought, let's try to do this a little bit differently. So we grabbed two of our friends who we made friends with these people virtually through our Facebook group. They were on the same cruise. We combined forces. We got off the boat. We ended up walking over to the national park, enjoyed the national park. Then we walked over to a hike, did that hike, and we decided that we wanted to go to $2 Beach, which was one of the main attractions that was on these tours. And so we flagged down did we get an Uber? Or no, we flagged the person down. Yeah, we flagged down a taxi. Got in the taxi, went out to $2 Beach, which was now $5, or $1 Beach that was $2 or something.
Well worth it. Well worth it.
Snorkeled, enjoyed our day. We made arrangements with that taxi driver to be there to take us back to the boat, part of one of those safety issues, so we didn't have to worry about having a taxi driver. Another tip is don't pay him until he gets you back to the boat, not halfway in between. Pay him when he gets you back. And we experienced a fantastic day with our friends. I think it was maybe $20 between the four of us. For the taxi ride to do all the things that we did, which would have cost $100 or so, with the cruise. And as we were talking with our friends that had taken some of these cruises, I think we had a much better day than they had.
Yeah, I really think we do. And we did more. And, just kind of a little aside tip is to take a look at the excursions that the ship is offering, but just figure out a way to do it the way you want to do it and do it on your terms, and not have to do it the way the ship is offering.
And I think the point that you make is if you are doing an excursion with a large group of people, whether it's a cruise or someplace else, you have to go at the speed of the slowest person in that group. And sometimes that can get a little annoying.
Yeah. And again, I hate waiting around. So yeah.
And then the third way of many, you can certainly hire, make plans ahead of time by using Viator or Get Your Guide and hiring somebody beforehand when you get to the cruise port, because a lot of these commercial guides actually work at these cruise ports as well. We actually just hired a local guide. Wasn't that fun when we went to Wadi Rum in Jordan?
Yeah, Jordan was an amazing stop on a cruise, and getting off the ship and kind of walking into town and just flagging down just a taxi. I think he was just sitting at the corner waiting, for a ride, and asking him about, how do we get out to Wadi Rum? This is the place where Star Wars was filmed.
And Lawrence Arabia
And
was
Lawrence
also born there.
Arabia. So it was a really cool place. And he had a buddy who had a 4-wheel drive who could take us out into the desert and really help us explore some of these different places.
So before we got in the cab, we negotiated the price for the whole day, and we knew that the cruise was offering the same deal for about $250. So we figured if we could beat $500, we were ahead of the game. And I think it came to $75 total for the two of us for the whole thing that the cruise ship had done. And so we got in his taxi cab who took us out to Wadi Rum. He introduced us to his friend who put us in his 4-wheel drive. We went, 4-wheeling all through the red sand dunes of Wadi Rum. We had a Jordanian tea and a snack on the way. Learned
Great
everything that everybody else he gave us a little tour of where Lawrence Arabia was and so on. And then we went back. The taxi driver was there. He took us back to the town, and we were hungry.
And we got back again. We got back with plenty of time to spare. And we said, we're hungry. Can you recommend something? And he said, don't go to any of these places. These are the tourist places. I'm going to tell you where to go. Go down the street, take a left. This place was amazing, all locals, and I think it was $3.
Yeah, for this giant spread. It had the best hummus I've ever eaten in my life, and pita and salads with it was kind of like Greek food, kind of like Greek food, but with a little Jordanian flavors to it. Oh
Delicious.
God, it was so good. Oh, I still think about that meal to this day.
Yeah.
Anyway,
and this is one of those places, like when you think about going to Jordan, you think about, this is going to be rough, but no, people were generous and friendly and delightful, had a great time and had an amazing experience.
Right. So I hope we've done a good job of debunking the 3 myths that the cruise industry absolutely perpetuates to get you to spend more money on their cruises. Now, or on their cruise excursions. Now, certainly there are situations that you might want to take those excursions, and we absolutely support you in doing that. It's not wrong to take those excursions. We're just trying to give you some alternatives and give you the confidence and maybe a few tools to help you explore the world a little bit beyond that cruise bubble and enjoy the world in a way that brings you happiness. We'll talk to you soon.